Now Union is starring alongside Oscar winner Octavia Spencer in the new season of the crime drama Truth Be Told. Spencer plays a true crime podcast host who teams up with a high school principal, played by Union, to investigate the missing black girls in their community. Here's a preview.
I've tried so long to protect my students, but it wasn't enough. Fool I've been. It doesn't sound foolish. And yet Drea's still dead. Seeing her killer won't change that. But if I could just look into his eyes, understand his monstrosity, I would know what I failed to warn my girls against.
Two great actors sharing the scene, and Oscar winner Octavia Spencer, she reached out to you personally, yes, Gabrielle Union, for this role.
Yes.
Were you hesitant to accept it?
I was nervous because of the subject matter and not sure just how I would react to really mining some of the most traumatic experiences of my life for my art and for such a long time, you know, such a long period of time for filming. But I mean, it's Octavia. You can't say no to Octavia. And we've been friends for so long. This is actually our third time working together. Mm-hmm. And I trust her. You know, there's not a lot of people that I trust my peace and my sanity to, but one of those would be Octavia. Wow. And I think this season, the work that we've done and the spotlight that we've been able to put on human trafficking, sexual trafficking of young and black and brown girls, and the disparity in media coverage, and just the lack of resources that we put towards the most marginalized of the marginalized. So for all of that, it's worth it.
You've talked about that publicly when you talk about the things that have been dark or difficult for you. Recently, you came up on 30 years since you were sexually assaulted. How do you think that experience sort of prepared you for this role, or you were able to sort of bring out certain emotions because of that?
Well, because the show is about sexual violence of young people in the Bay Area. At 19, I experienced sexual violence. I was raped at gunpoint at my job. And I thought I was very clear about everything that had happened. Mm-hmm. But throughout the filming of this show, I realized the depths of disassociation. Mm. So when it was happening, when I've been describing this for 25 years, right? When it was happening, I left my body. And that is what they call disassociation, sort of removing yourself, you know, mentally from where you're at. But I thought I came back into myself, you know, by the time the police arrived, right? But throughout the filming of this show, what I realized is that for 30 years, I thought I knew everything that had happened. But my mind was protecting me. And so over those 5 months, it was like my brain was pulling back the curtain on everything. Okay. Smells, like everything that happened, what his skin felt like, all of it was finally revealed to me. For 30 years, I thought I knew. And what I realized is that I wouldn't have survived at 19, understanding the enormity of the trauma. And when I think about it, I was raped one time. Mm-hmm. One time, and 30 years later, I'm still struggling.
Right.
Victims of sexual violence experience this over and over and over again, indefinitely, until they decide you have no more value.
And that's why you want to do this story. It's important. You wanted to work with Octavia Spencer. But hearing you describe, I mean, this is about sexual violence in the Bay Area. You were a survivor of sexual violence in the Bay Area. Yeah. So playing this character must have been difficult when the cameras are not rolling. What
I struggled.
did you do to get through the nights?
I cried. And I'm not a weepy person at all. Mm-hmm. And I would go home every night and I would cry. And my husband is like, what's happening? And it was like finally feeling the full brunt of my rape and having to use that pain for art, for the greater good. And I just felt such an enormous responsibility. And I wasn't exactly prioritizing myself. I didn't factor that into the work experience, to the point where my friends scheduled a rebirth on the day that the show wrapped. Mm. And I literally went from set to Malibu, and I got to the beach, and I hear these, you know, West African drummers and the elders basically welcoming me into the woman that I'm going to be, so I can finally release this trauma. And because that's how deep the wounds go when you experience sexual violence as a young person. And if my little experience in comparison to the enormity of the trauma that these folks experience as victims of sexual trafficking, where they will blame you, they will make you complicit in your own abuse. You know what I mean? Like, I was raped at gunpoint at work, and they still asked me what I had on.
As though that matters.
As though that matters. It's the language that we use.
Yeah.
It's the lack of media attention. It's the lack of resources. 71,000 Black girls under 17 went missing in 2021. And they were identified as runaways. 9 out of 10 were identified as runaways. If you're identified as a runaway, no Amber Alert, no law enforcement attention, nothing.
Having covered Gabby Petito on the ground and knowing that this has brought more awareness to that issue, we're talking about it more than I could ever recall as a journalist. How much do you think the show has helped with that conversation?
I mean, we've only been out a few days, but already the response has been enormous. And we have heard from every organization that does this work, you know, grassroots to the big organizations that are thanking us for shining a light on the disparity, the massive disparity in media attention, even how it's framed.
Right.
You know, saying things like juvenile prostitutes. Juveniles means children.
Right.
Children cannot consent to sex work.
Right.
They're children.
Yeah.
But Black and brown girls get adultified. Like, we are demonized and we are blamed for our own abuse, which means you're not going to take it as seriously. Our innocence is never guaranteed. Right? It's always up for debate. And the media decides who holds importance, which is why we know about Gabby. We know that hashtag. We know all of those hashtags. 71,000?
Yeah.
Name one hashtag. Who do we know?
When you think about your own children, are you glad you did this for them?
For my children, for everybody. We need to understand this is an epidemic, a global epidemic. I mean, 71,000? When you think about the over 18, that was 19,500. In 2020 alone, Black women who went missing.
Yeah.
Where is the concern? Where's the care? Where's the outrage? This is insane.
That's why projects like
whole
this are
cities
important.
Yeah.
just wiped off, and being subjected to unspeakable horrors, and
Well
we're
said.
turning a blind eye.
Yeah.
Gabrielle, thank you so much. We appreciate you. You can watch the new season, Truth Be Told, Apple TV+. New episodes drop every Friday.